Kinnis from ClassTag. I am a former technology teacher and really excited to introduce our guest today. We have Robyn from Microsoft Education joining us, and she's going to be speaking to us around accessibility and inclusion, specifically as it relates to English language learners and students with special needs. Robyn, I'll let you take it away and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey guys, so glad to be here with you all, share with you some things that maybe you haven't heard about before, and then also willing to take any questions that you have. Just a little brief bio about myself. So I work at our Microsoft Education team here in the United States. I oversee a lot of our teacher programs, our MIE Expert program, our Showcase School program, and then I just get to work with lots of school districts across the United States who are doing some really innovative things across the country. So it's exciting work each and every day. So just excited to be here with you. And prior to coming to Microsoft, I actually spent 15 years in K-12 education myself. So I started my career off as a middle school teacher and wore many hats throughout the years. Was a coach of many sports, as you know, you take on lots of extra duties as a teacher. And then I moved into several school leadership roles after my years in the classroom. So I'm just really looking forward to learning with you guys, sharing some things that we have specifically around accessibility, and then why this is so central a focus for us here at Microsoft in Education and core to our values.
Thanks, Robyn. We are getting a lot of questions from teachers here at ClassTag, and one of those main questions that are coming up are, what are we going to do to build this sense of community during the first day and first week of school? And would love to get your take from the Microsoft angle of how to build that sense of community.
Yeah, that is a great question, and it's definitely something that should be top of mind for everybody out there in the education environment. You know, as many classes went into a remote learning setting and as a fire drill in the March timeframe, the one thing that each teacher had that benefit of was you already had relationships with your kids. You didn't have to worry about who they are or what's important to them at that time. You knew that, so you just had to figure out the technology piece and how you teach in a remote learning environment, which is a challenge in itself, and I know a big learning curve for many. And then now we're going into our back to school time frame, and I mean, many of you guys have been obviously watching lots of webinars, joining in professional development opportunities with your school districts, and how do you teach in a remote or hybrid environment? But how do you build those relationships with your kids when they're new? You're new to them, they're new to you. And so, what I like to say is, you can do the same type of activities that you would do as a class starter or a relationship builder that you did in person, just using digital tools and replacing some of the maybe in-person activities with digital activities. A couple examples. So Flipgrid. Flipgrid is a favorite tool for all of our students and teachers. It is like the fastest growing technology application on the planet. It's crazy how many people love to use it. But really it's because the students feel empowered to use it. They have fun using the app. And they also just get to be themselves, tell stories. So if you're looking to learn about your students, maybe have them create a Flipgrid video, sharing some fun facts about themselves. Being that they might be doing this from home, if they have a pet, they have show and tell now at home that they are able to bring into the classroom. So they can bring in live props from their home, things that are important to them inside those Flipgrid videos. And then you can have those shared out so that they can learn and grow from each other as a class, and you can look at them as a teacher and learn from them as well. Another idea that I think is a pretty easy, low bar idea would be just to use a form to collect information, a survey. So use a digital form, create a survey, ask questions about your students, some personal things. What's their favorite food? What's their favorite activity? Do they play any sports, or are they, into using computers? What's their favorite software? And then ask things also that are important for you to know, such as, when's the best time of day to connect with you? Some learners may say, the best time for me might be at, this particular time of day because it's quiet in my house, or it's the opportunity that I have to use the device when I'm not having to share with my siblings. So ask those questions as well, so you can really see what your students need from you and when they're going to be available to connect with you each day. And then there's other things that I've seen teachers do that are pretty awesome too. So a lot of teachers have been starting to use, and Minecraft Education Edition in the classroom. And so there are teachers that are building back to school activities in Minecraft where they're dropping in scenarios or videos and building things inside of Minecraft to get the students to learn about them or create a challenge. Maybe it's a writing prompt they dropped in, so the students have to navigate to a certain place in the Minecraft world and then actually respond to the writing prompt. So there's lots of things that can happen creatively inside of a tool like that as well. It's a little bit more of a learning curve and maybe scary for us as older people and educators to use Minecraft, but I guarantee you your kids are not scared to use it. You just kind of have to jump in the deep end and let them teach you and help you with that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love the idea of just jumping in and getting started and being okay with that learning curve. One word that comes up also is Microsoft Teams. I know many folks are familiar with that. Many teachers are using that across the country, but it's new to some of our audience. Are you able to share a little bit more about what Microsoft Teams is and how it can help teachers?
Yeah, absolutely. So Microsoft Teams is obviously a tool that can be used in the learning environment, teaching and learning environment. It can be used, it may be used by the business world, et cetera. So it is a tool that has transferable knowledge for our students, but really what it is in the classroom, and we do a special version of Teams specifically for education, it is a hub for learning. So it provides you an opportunity to have live meetings with students or your entire class, much like we're having right now. And we can chat in our live meetings. There's the ability to use emojis, which are super fun, especially for building relationships, because you can just say, hey, drop in an emoji this morning and tell me how you feel, right? And that can happen right in that live chat with your classroom that's going on inside of there. And so it is that, live Teams classroom experience in a call type of environment that you can have, but it's way more than that. So additionally in Teams, you can have shared files with students. It's a collaborative space, so you can build out channels inside of Teams and think of your channels as maybe groups, if you would. So if I taught, let's say, 7th grade science, I might have a 7th grade science team, and then my channels might be different units that we're teaching in science, or maybe I also use channels to have breakout groups and assign students to do projects together. And so inside those channels, they can have conversations with each other, they can share files and collaborate on files there as well. So the entire Microsoft 365 suite of applications is all embedded inside of there. But then that's not it either. When I say it's a space and a hub for learning, is that we look to, even at Microsoft, that we don't expect everybody to use just our tools in a teaching and learning environment. So if, let's say you use, throw something, Pear Deck, maybe you use that in your classroom. Pear Deck is an app that is built into Teams, so you can add your Pear Deck or your Nearpod or whatever it is right there inside that Teams environment. So it doesn't require the kids to go out to another website, do another login. They're just in a Teams environment, and then they can continue to use other applications. Or let's say you want them to maybe do some research on a particular website. You can actually pen that website in the team as well, so that the kids just literally click on the tab in Teams and that website is embedded right there in that team. So it really kind of takes all the different places that you might send kids off to learn in a digital environment and puts it in one hub that they can work together and they can collaborate, share, and then just have these types of interactions as well.
Awesome. And just to add to that, for folks who are new to ClassTag is a free parent-teacher communication platform. We also help teachers get free supplies. So there's a spot within ClassTag. We have quick links where teachers can share some of their favorite resources to connect with their families. And there's a spot within there that you can save the Meet Microsoft Teams links within there as well. So on that note, you mentioned some resources that are paid resources, some resources that are free resources for teachers. We have teachers across the country spending hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars out of their pocket every single year, and that's not always reimbursed by the school district or school. Can you speak specifically to some resources that are freely accessible to teachers at Microsoft?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, our entire Microsoft education platform for EDU is 100% free. So Microsoft for Education is free. You can go to office.com/teachers or /students if you're a student. and sign up for an account if your district is not already using them, and it will actually spin up an entire Microsoft account for you, and you'll get access to all the tools, including Word Online, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, Forms, Teams, Flipgrid, Minecraft, like everything. It's just kind of part of the ecosystem at Microsoft Education. So all of those tools we do offer for free for education. Some schools districts do tend to buy some additional licensing if they're looking for different security, retention services, et cetera. But anybody can have access to the baseline for free that provides all of the tools in the cloud accessible for free. The second thing that I would share for teachers is our professional learning resources. We have, and I'll share my screen with you guys. I'll jump into our Educator Center so you can see what I'm talking about and not just having to hear my mouth. Let's see if it's selecting. All right, let me see. All right, perfect. Yes, there it is. All right, so this is our Microsoft Educator Center, and anybody can go here. It's education.microsoft.com. That's the URL that takes you to our site. When you go here, you can choose to use the site anonymously. You don't have to log in, but if you go to the upper right-hand corner, there is a place, you'll see my face is up there because I'm logged in. You can join. It's no cost to join. It's absolutely free. And the main reason that you would want to join is because you can track your progress, earn badges, et cetera, on the Educator Center. So I always suggest joining so you can have access to earning badges and really track your progress and what you're doing or build a plan. Maybe you can get professional learning credit for that in your district. A lot of school districts do provide teachers the opportunity to share their badges or the certificates they earned inside the community and get PD credit for that. So I'll kind of show you what's in here real quick. There are hundreds of courses that are available, and they're all written by educators and produced by educators. So they're not Microsoft engineers telling you how you should use their products. And matter of fact, most of them aren't even super centrally focused to products. They're actually based on pedagogy. We've got courses that are 100% pedagogy that don't even talk about products. But you can come into the training if you're, for example, if you're looking for training, and we've got courses, we've got learning paths, and then we also have a link to all of our webinars and live events that we have hosting. But let's just say I go to courses. This will take me to all of the courses that are out there on the Educator Center, and you can see I can scroll and scroll and scroll, and there are hundreds of courses that are available. But you might want to filter those by what you're actually looking to learn about. So for example, if you're looking to learn about accessibility, maybe I did a search on accessibility and see what's out there. So right now there's a course called Accessibility Tools Meeting the Needs of Diverse Learners. And there's also a course on accessibility, special education, and online learning, and supporting equity in a remote learning environment. So you can go into one of the courses. It will show you about how long that course will take you to complete, which this is about an hour, the course objectives, how many points the course is worth. You can see you can earn a badge by completing this course. And then you literally click Start Course and you begin your learning journey. One of the great things is you can do this at any point in time from home. I call it PD in your pajamas. And you can also start a course, stop, leave, come back, and it will remember where you are. So if you get busy and you need to finish it up next week or next month, it will keep your progress, and you can come back to that at any point in time. So all that is 100% free for educators. We don't charge anything for any of this professional learning. We just want to provide a place for you guys to be able to learn at your own pace, at your own needs, and honestly learn what you're interested in learning about.
Thank you. Robyn, I have great respect. I know you're working around the country, working with different districts, helping them modernize teaching, modernize their resources. And I'm wondering, can you share with us specifically some ideas around how to increase, of course, besides going to the workshops that you shared with us, but with limited time, what are some immediate things we can do in the classroom to make the classroom more accessible, make it more inclusive in terms of tapping into English language learners and students with special needs?
Yeah, so accessibility and inclusion are core to our values at Microsoft. We are constantly evaluating our products, where we constantly even look at who's working internally at our company. Do we have a diverse group of people working? We have an autism department that hires people with autism to make sure that they're appropriately testing products and that, we're inclusive of everybody's ideas and opinions. So for us at a company, it's just important. I mean, we can't build technology in a vacuum and only have a certain type of people build the technology, because then it's not reflective upon the communities that we live in. So we do take accessibility very serious at Microsoft, and we're constantly looking to improve and grow across our stack. I will share a couple of things that are kind of near and dear to my heart that I think are awesome in education. The first one is in Teams and in many other tools, whether you're using Teams or not, and many other platforms, we do have closed captioning built in. So as you're working in this remote environment, for students who may have a hearing impairment, maybe they have they're speaking a second language and they're learning the new language, the instructor can launch closed captioning, or the user on the other end can launch closed captioning, and they can actually hear or see the closed captioning across the presentation that you're in or the classroom that you're in, what's being spoken, and they can actually choose the language as well. So if the student needs to see that in Spanish, they can choose that as their language and have that there. So that's pretty, I think needs to be in all platforms if we're expecting kids to learn, to make that accessible. We also have which is one of my favorite tools, is something called Immersive Reader. Immersive Reader was kicked off a few years ago as a hackathon project internally at Microsoft, and it was really kind of meant to help students with dyslexia be able to read better. That's what the initial goal was, but we've learned since then that it's actually helping people with so many different disabilities. And so what Immersive Reader does is it's one little button that lives inside of Teams, it lives inside of Forms, it lives inside of OneNote, Word, Excel, like all different parts of our tools. And then also partners too. A lot of our partners have launched Immersive Reader in their platforms as well. So if you're using other tools and if you see a little icon, it looks like a little book with little brackets around it, that's the Immersive Reader. It's in the Edge browser. But what happens is when a student clicks Immersive Reader, they're able to basically minimize all distractions on the screen. The text will show up in a larger or a different font style. They can choose their font style, the size, the color. They can choose line spacing to have it broke up by syllables. They can add in the parts of speech if necessary. There's a picture dictionary that's built in. So when they hover over a word, it actually shows what that word is by a picture. So we integrate, I forget what, I'm blanking on it, but there's a technology that was built for dyslexia that has the picture icons, and that's what we have actually built into our Immersive Reader. That's in there. There's a screen reader, so you can choose to have all that text read to you, and then you can also have it translated or read in another language. So if you need that text to be read, or maybe it's a quiz, that's a form, you need it to be read in Spanish, you click Immersive Reader, the form will ask you the questions in Spanish, and the student is able to use that for their personalized needs. So every student is able to personalize their own Immersive Reader experience based on the needs that they have. Like I said, really, it started out as a project to help with dyslexia, and since it's turned into a much bigger thing, we've learned from so many teachers and students that it's helped with students with dysgraphia. It's helped with even just students who, may not identify as having a learning disability, but just to have someone read something back to them, they're like, oh, after I had the Immersive Reader read my paper to me, I realized I had a bunch of grammatical mistakes. So that's just built into the technology, because we really want to provide that opportunity for students to get the information in ways that reach them the best.
That's awesome. The next question is a bit more challenging. We've got a range of teachers that have different comfort levels with technology, and my question is, what are one or two tips, kind of those insider tricks for those users, those teachers that are very comfortable with technology? What would you recommend for them? Perhaps something to do with STEM resources, perhaps something to do with the technology itself.
Yeah, so actually you say STEM resources. We do have actually, and if I can go back to my screen here, let's see. Or maybe I was still sharing, sorry. If I go back to my screen, I'll share with some resources that we have that are free too. So as you talked about STEM, we have an entire Hacking STEM curriculum. And sorry if my head's turning, I'm looking over at a different monitor over here. But underneath lesson plans, let me jump to it. Come on. Let's see if I can get my computer to play. You'll see that we have resources for Hacking STEM, resources for Minecraft Education Edition, which I kind of brought to attention earlier, and then also Skype in the Classroom. So I'll touch on Hacking STEM first. Hacking STEM is basically a series of lessons that are already developed that our engineers have partnered with teachers to build. So you can come in here and you can find a lesson that you're looking to deliver, and it is everything from all of the supplies that you will need for the lessons to the step-by-step directions for the students. We have some lessons that we partner with Lego and other partners on that are developed here too, but it actually allows the students to use the technology in a STEM environment or a STEM classroom to do data analysis, computer science, etc. So all that is built here. The lessons are done. They're all aligned to standards, and they're ready for teachers to use. The other thing that I think we see a lot of teachers fall in love with is really our Skype in the Classroom experience. So if you haven't, and this can be for beginner teachers or teachers that even may have been using technology a while, but may not know that this exists. So Skype in the Classroom, it basically takes a virtual field trip and brings it to you and your students. So we do lots of partners with libraries, museums, zoos, different scientific research centers, et cetera. And they offer virtual field trips, and then you have your students participate in those. So it's a way for them to interact with the speakers, engage with them. The lessons are already kind of done for you. We've got authors that come in and speak, et cetera. So you can sign up for a virtual field trip. And then it's also a way just to connect with other teachers and students across the planet. There's teachers that come in here and they sign up and they say, I'm willing to connect with other teachers and students. My students want to connect with yours. So teachers do things like play mystery Skype with their students. They learn about each other's cultures, and these begin to be lifelong relationships that these teachers are forming with other educators, and students are forming with other students around the world, where they're actually learning skills of empathy, relationship building, and really understanding that we do live in this global society, and there's so many different opportunities to learn from people with unique backgrounds. So those are some free resources that I would suggest that, if you're a STEM teacher, definitely check out the Hacking STEM curriculum. And then I would say any teacher, Skype in the Classroom is just an amazing asset and resource, and the kids love participating in these activities.
Amazing. I am going to invite Sam back into the chat in a second. I know we've got a lot of engagement on the feed, and I want to see if there are any specific questions from teachers that we want to address for you. I know there's some questions about the field trips, and there's some other questions in there. Sam, was there anything that stood out in the chat?
Sam, you're on mute.
Thanks, guys. Sorry about that. We had a question about preschool. How do you connect with, I think there is a challenge in connecting with really young kids. And how do you and Microsoft kind of overcome that, or maybe even help parents support a little bit better kids learning?
Yeah, I think you really just kind of have to find whatever tool it is that you guys are going to use for that digital communication, and keep it simple. Provide the parent with some sort of video training beforehand so they know what's to be expected, how to, do things like this, how to turn your camera on. And depending on the tool, you might want to show them how to change their background. Again, we're talking about diversity and inclusion. I think that's super important, and I will say that in the classroom is, as you're engaging with students in a classroom experience and they're turning their cameras on, we have to be cognizant that not every student may be proud of the space that they're learning from, or maybe not all teachers are either. So really kind of think about, the solution that you're using, whatever that is, does it allow you to change your background image to something else, and show your students or your parents, have a quick tip video to say, here's how you can quickly change your background so that, no one feels less because they may not have, an immaculate place that they're living in. Or I've had a coworker join a call and she was in her closet because it was the only, a quiet space in our house. And so we just need to be thoughtful of those things and provide, content and snippets or little bits for our parents to access, especially for those littles. And then also, I think, from a pedagogical standpoint, is to be cognizant of how much time you're asking your students to be online. There is absolutely no reason that I would say any child in elementary should be sitting behind a computer for hours a day. So it's okay that you do some flipped learning and that maybe they watch a little bit of content and then they engage, and you blend that physical world that they're in, if they're at home, with the digital world that they're interacting with. I've seen a lot of teachers starting to share some really cool things that they're doing, especially in math, and really kind of turning their kitchens into their math labs, and showing kids, this is a practical application of using fractions when we're cooking. So don't feel like you're not doing your job as a teacher because you're not sitting behind a machine all day, and that your students aren't either. We know that's not good for them. All of the science and neuroscience points to that direction. So it's okay to still, do things in a physical capacity. You might have to have it turned in digitally, but that doesn't mean you can't have a student still do math problems on a piece of paper and take a picture of that piece of paper and submit it digitally. It doesn't mean that they can't, have a recess break and go outside in their neighborhood and play. Those things should still be happening because that's part of building the whole child. So it's not a always on or always off environment. It's just blending the two environments together and doing what's most responsible. But hopefully that's helpful.
Oh, yeah. And I think we talked a little bit about this yesterday on our live session, for those of you that joined us, about the importance of teaching skills, even though we don't, I think sometimes as teachers, we get really heavy with the content, but teaching skills is just as important. And having that connection to be able to teach the skills. I saw student citizenship, like digital citizenship, right? Was like one of the very first things you guys had. And I mean, I highly recommend you guys read that. Microsoft probably has done an amazing job on that. You guys being one of the leaders in technology around that, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times people think, oh, you're a technology company, so you just want our kids sitting at devices all day. And that is absolutely the furthest from the truth. I mean, and if you think about where we're moving as a society and, the integration of AI in our economy and, replacing jobs that exist today, is what we've come to determine is, yes, AI is going to continue to evolve and change, and there will be jobs that are never come back, they're lost and they don't come back. And that's just the state of, evolution and how we change as a society. But what we see from that as a technology company is we're not trying to make everybody robots. We actually need teachers to teach these soft skills and our kids to learn these soft skills more now than ever, because the human capacity in the workplace, in the workforce, in the future for our students is going to become more and more important. So the problem-solving skills, the ability to have presentations and to share in a virtual capacity, these are skills that people don't just have. They're learned. And a lot of times they're learned in an education setting, or even what we might call, when I taught in elementary school, our kids went to specials. That was art and PE and music, right? And speech class and band. But I was just talking to somebody yesterday, and he was sharing with me that he had to actually pause and reflect on how he learned to be a good presenter in life. And he said, I realized that it was because my mom had put me in a theater club when I was in elementary school. And so I had to learn performance skills. And it was those soft skills that has allowed me to be successful in my career today, because I'm responsible for doing lots of large group presentations. I'm on a board, for the local chamber of commerce, and those skills are necessary. So it doesn't always have to be, just what we may think as all the curriculum that we have to teach. The soft skills are just as, or maybe even more important today as we move into this new society.
Absolutely.
On that note, actually, I can't help but wonder how teachers approach physical education or, movement in the classroom if they are in a remote environment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's literally encouraging kids to go out to their backyards or local community neighborhoods if there's a playground, spaces, but getting them outside as much as possible. There's lots of people that are teachers having their students connect to some sort of exercise routine online, and then also just gaming. right? A lot of games actually can be very physical. So especially if you look at, platforms that are actually using the movement technologies where I can open up my Xbox and play beach volleyball, and in 10 minutes I'll be breaking a sweat. So there is ways that you can have physical motion or capacity from a physical education perspective. But then I also think even just like the camaraderie and the relationships that are usually built in these spaces as well. I mean, we all know, there's a lot of relationships and unique things that happen on the playgrounds in our elementary spaces, as well as in our athletic teams in our high schools. So, it's not the same, and no one's going to say it's the same because it's not. But we do have to encourage our students to connect with each other, even if it's, some of your kids are doing virtual play dates and doing dress up. There's lots of ways that you can still get kids connected at an emotional level.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Robyn. And Sam, just as we kind of start to wind down, and for folks that are listening, if there are any last questions, feel free to include them in the chat. Also, feel free to include where you're from, what you teach. We'd love to hear that background information. We will continue to monitor the chat over the next 24 hours, and if there are any questions, we're happy to jump in and help out as best we can. But Sam, are there any last questions that you're noticing in chat, or any last questions that you have for Robyn? Or perhaps even Robyn, after that, any last things that you really want to make sure all teachers know?
Yeah, one of the things that I think is super important is just thinking about mental well-being during this time for both teachers and students. So if we've got any school leaders on there, just knowing that this is a unique experience for everybody, and it's not a good one, right? I mean, no one likes this per se all the time. I know we crave that social interactions, but to take care of yourself mentally as well. I know internally at Microsoft, we've been really trying to get better about taking moments, even on our scheduled team meetings and things, to take the first 3 to 5 minutes and do mindfulness moments, right? And just take a moment of calm, or just to say, how is everybody doing right now? And it's okay not to be okay. So I think as we need to be purposeful about that. I think everybody in their back of their mind says, yeah, that's important. But unless you actually schedule it into the lesson for your students to actually maybe do a little bit of meditation or close their eyes and have a positive thought for the day, but just bringing that sense of calm to the classroom can be very powerful. So just be purposeful about it and you can make it happen.
Love it. And we don't have any other questions. Teachers, if you want to drop in like tips and tricks or best practices that you think that worked really well before we stop for the summer, feel free to drop in the comments. We love getting those kind of things too.
Yes, you guys are the experts. You already know how to do all this. It's just a different capacity.
And it looks like we lost Marcia, so I think this is the perfect time to wrap it up. Guys, I hope you have a fantastic, there she is. Any parting words, Marcia?
No, I just need a better internet connection. But Robyn, it was a true pleasure. I learned a lot, and I think everyone that joined today benefited quite a bit from hearing everything that you had to share. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate being on today. And if anybody wants to connect, post those, ask questions, ask for resources, links, anything, you can reach out to me on Twitter. So I don't know if we can drop that in the chat window. But we can put my Twitter handle in there. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm always open to engage with new people. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.